So Star Wars Hunters launched 6 weeks ago today, and although it had a fair amount of hype right around launch, now that the dust has settled, I kind of wanted to take a step back, look over the game again, and just kind of discuss my thoughts on it all now that we've had our hands on it for the last 6 weeks or so, because obviously over time you can look at a game a little bit differently. So now that the dust has settled, here are my overall thoughts on Star Wars Hunters. Now I must admit, when the game did launch back in June, the community reception actually kind of blew me away. I was honestly expecting this game to get a lot of hate simply because it is a mobile game. It's got a lot of monetization in it when it comes to the skins and stuff like that. It has that almost like Fortnite cartoony look to it as well, and all of those different ingredients. I honestly did just think that this game was going to get so much hate when it launched, but like I said, I was completely taken by surprise because it seemed like it was the absolute opposite. All the comments I was getting on all of my own videos, as well as the stuff I was seeing on Twitter and on Reddit, was essentially nothing but praise. Everyone was saying like, holy shit, this game is actually really good. I was not expecting that, but I'm having a blast with the game. Whether it was my own friends saying that, or like I said, just random people on the internet, the overall reception for the game was genuinely really good. And I would still say to this point it has been really good, albeit obviously the hype has died down a little bit, which is to be expected with essentially any game that ever launches. Now for me, that was really good to see because I had been paying attention to the game ever since it was announced way back in 2021, which is obviously a very long time ago now, and I had a feeling that it was going to go one of two ways. It was going to either A, be a complete bust because of the reasons I just mentioned. It's a mobile game, it's got monetization, and coming off of like Battlefront 2, where a lot of people really still want that, you know, AAA big multiplayer Star Wars game, I thought a lot of people just wouldn't like this because it simply isn't that. Or the other way that I thought it would go is that people would love it because it is genuinely a really good game. But again, just because I thought that was a possibility, the chances of that happening weren't that high at all. So like I said, I was completely taken by surprise, but it was really good to see that all the hard work that devs have put in, and even despite all of the delays and stuff like that, people were really enjoying it, and there was genuine excitement around the game when it launched. And even until now, there is still a fair amount of excitement and just that community feeling that I think we've all been missing when it comes to Star Wars games. Now, in terms of the game itself, my opinion on that hasn't really changed in the last 6 weeks, simply because I've been playing it before the launch as well. So it's not new to me. It's something that I'd, like I said, been paying attention to for a long time, and so the last 6 weeks hasn't really changed my opinion on that. The only thing that probably has had a change of opinion from me is to do with the balancing of the game, which I do still think is fairly well balanced. I think the game overall, when you include all the hunters and the modes and stuff like that, I think it's a fairly well balanced game. But with the masses now getting their hands on the game, I think there have been a few hunters that have really shone, which again, that wasn't really the case in the soft launch, at least not as much as it is at the moment, where there are definitely a few hunters that you essentially have to pick. If your team doesn't have a scorer, for example, you're probably not going to win unless the other team is just absolute bots. So that's really the only area that my opinion has changed a little bit. I think they do need to do a little bit more balance tuning. Scorer, Sentinel, maybe even Slingshot, they all need to be brought down just a little bit. And then the likes of, for example, Sprocket, maybe Amara Vex as well. There are a few hunters that probably need to be raised a little bit as well. But again, I'm sure they will be on top of that. They have throughout the soft launch stayed pretty balanced throughout the entire time. And realistically, now that there were millions of new players that were going to play the game, the balancing was always going to be thrown off, because when you get so many more new players playing, that means that they're bringing a bunch of new play styles to the game and essentially like unlocking a bunch of things that we didn't know about these hunters, even though the game had been out in soft launch for years before that. Now, the only other area that I really can't talk about too much is to do with the amount of content and just the overall content in the game. And that is simply because, again, the content we have right now to me feels a little bit old because it hasn't really changed from the soft launch that much. But that is a pretty hard thing to judge, because obviously for anyone who's only been playing 6 weeks, it all probably still feels very new, and there is plenty of content on the way. So hopefully for the majority of new players, that does continue to feel that way. For those who haven't seen it, they have essentially announced that sometime soon, and to be honest, it could be this coming week, or I'm recording this in advance, so it could actually have already happened by the time this video goes live, but they've announced they're going to be dropping some news soon about some of the upcoming content that is expected to be coming out over the next year or so. So there is clearly a lot of stuff on the way. They wouldn't announce an announcement like that if they didn't have something to announce. Usually they would just drop like, hey, we're dropping a new hunter this season or whatever. But the fact that they've essentially made an announcement before an announcement, that makes it seem like there is going to be a lot of stuff they're going to show off. And it seems like the cadence for content for this game is going to be pretty decent. Now, a big part of that is obviously to do with the fact it was delayed so many times. The game was already pretty much ready for launch back in 2021. And because of those delays, it does mean that they've probably had a lot more time to just work on upcoming content, which, even though it sucks the game was delayed, that is a really good thing for us because it means they are now potentially years ahead on their work. And there is a genuine chance that they've actually got the next year of content literally finished already, and they're already working on like year 2 content, which is a really good thing for us because it means they don't have to rush it. They can kind of, in a way, drip feed us that content, which sounds like a bad thing, but I think that's the way to do it. If they just gave us like 5 new hunters at once and then there was nothing for 6 months after that, that isn't fun for anyone. So all those delays are probably a really good thing. The game has definitely improved a lot in that time, and like I said, it has probably allowed them to get a lot of content prepared so that now, for the foreseeable future, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff on the way, lots of maps. We're probably going to get a hunter every single season, as well as a heap of skins, as you've already seen, whether it's in the store or in the arena pass. There is so many skins in this game, some of which are absolutely awesome, and no doubt they're just only going to get better and better, as well as being plenty more of them too. So I think the potential for this game moving forward is absolutely insane, and I've been saying that for a long time now. Honestly, the potential was always there. It just came down to whether they could actually live up to that potential. But like I said, I think those delays have actually probably helped them in that sense, and if they can just get the work done and obviously make sure that it is all a high quality, then I really do think we are in for a good 5 to 10 years of really good live service for this game. Now, I know that might sound crazy to some of you guys to be talking about 10 years from now, but for those who missed it, Rich Kemp, who is one of the senior art directors, or I think the senior art director, and he said in an interview that there is a lot of stuff on the way. They were talking about the setting and stuff like that, and he said it gives us the flexibility to tell stories that we can develop over time. We want enough runway. Hopefully the game lasts a decade, and then we don't butt up against something we don't want to. So when they're saying that they hope the game lasts a decade, and the fact that it's a mobile game, it's probably going to make a hell of a lot of money. What that essentially means is that if the money does come in for this game, they will support it for a decade. There's no reason that they won't. If it's continuously making money, they will support it as long as they can. And we've seen that with Galaxy of Heroes, that I think is into its potentially 8th year. I could be wrong on that. It could even be more than that, but that is still getting like regular updates and is just constantly improving after, like I said, potentially 8 years or so. And in my opinion, Star Wars Hunters is a far better game than Galaxy of Heroes. So that whole decade sentence that I just said about hopefully this is supported for 10 years, that isn't actually out of the question. And like I said, that means there is so much potential for this game. If you think about all of the new hunters we could get in a decade of support for this game, there's already at 13 at launch, and we're essentially going to get one every season, which is every 2 months. 6 new hunters per year. If they support it for 10 years, that is literally 60 new hunters that the game will have by then, as well as countless maps and new game modes and stuff like that. Heaps of crazy skins. There's going to be hundreds of skins for each hunter by the end of the game, and it definitely has me feeling very, very excited for the future of Star Wars Hunters. So that is, I guess, a quick summary of my thoughts on the game and my excitement for the future for this game now that the dust has finally settled for Star Wars Hunters. I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts as well. Let me know how you guys feel about the game after 6 weeks of launch. A lot of people might have really loved it at launch and then they've kind of fallen off. Other people might be falling more in love with it every single day. So I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts down in the comment section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.